This Forever 400 DFS / Underdog Picks edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog has just added Pick'em Scorchers, where you can win 100 times your money. That's right. Turn $5 into $500 in one game. Plus, every Sunday, they're giving away $100,000. Use promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus up to $500. We're also brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code CFBX for $20 off of your first purchase. We're brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month and start making smarter bets today. And we're giving away $3,000 in our NFL Second Chance Survivor Contest presented by Corey Pinkston and Barking Dog Properties. The contest starts this weekend and it's free to enter. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/survivor.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you asked me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Closing out the week strong, talking about racing things. It is the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez, and we, of course, are closing out the weekend of coverage here in the Homestead-Miami Speedway with this DFS / Underdog edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Cody, buddy, we've made it to the end of the week. Are we feeling good?
Oh, we're back. It's Friday. End of the week. So glad. Yes, feeling great. Going into the weekend. It's exciting. Doubleheader tomorrow on Saturday. Trucks and Xfinity. Dale Jr.'s back. Then Sunday we get Cup F1 at the same time together. Love it. I'm excited. Again, getting down to the nitty gritty here. This season's almost done. We're gonna have some champions soon, and this weekend's gonna be key in helping decide those champions for sure.
All that's missing is IndyCar. That's really the only thing missing from this mix, right?
Sad. Their season's been over for like 2 months.
It's so weird to not have it. It's just, it's definitely. I'm like,
they just completely punt. They want nothing to do with competing against football, and they're done.
like we know the drill. So, again, yes, we are at Miami or Homestead-Miami Speedway. This is, of course, the race that's named after Kevin Harvick because why not? I mean, this race makes sense to name after Kevin Harvick, right?
Yeah, I mean, hey, it got a little better after I realized that Mobile One was the one. Like, I thought that Homestead was just naming it, and I'm like, boy, are we that hard up for sponsorship? But it is the Forever 400 presented by Mobile One. So shout out to his sponsor for taking care of it. But hey, whatever is what it is.
Can't wait to watch that paint scheme roll around this course. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that. Budweiser, actually, I worked for Budweiser at the time when he won that championship, so I was all about that car at the time. It's a beautiful, beautiful car. Obviously won the race, won the championship on this track that year in this car. So going to be pretty sweet to see that. And obviously, Anheuser-Busch has shifted to Busch Light sponsorship rather than Budweiser, but to see him throw Budweiser back in the car for a race, to have the throwback and kind of wrap it all up from his lone championship, I think it is pretty sweet.
It is pretty sweet indeed. So, of course, from a DFS standpoint, we'll be giving you our favorite DFS players, and then we're going to go ahead and tack on the underdog plays as well to this episode because, that's another way to play. We've enjoyed bringing you the underdog. And, Cody, I said it on the outset, as we were talking before the show, kudos to Underdog. I want to give you guys a big shout out and a compliment for changing the verbiage of the racing to better than or worse than, because listen, nothing confuses me more than words and math. So if you put those two together and I have to try to figure this out, like a word problem is probably my nightmare, right? If I was to pick a Halloween scary costume, it would be a word problem. So if you're telling me that I have to figure out whether a higher than means higher than the number or, or higher than the position.
Yeah, the higher lower thing, it's like, well, is first higher than second? Or I mean, it could be interpreted both ways, right? So
or a higher number, like two, like 3 is higher than 2.
Right, exactly. So now it's better than or worse than. Makes it a lot simpler and easier. So excited to talk about Underdog. If you usually listen to our DFS episode, but you haven't been catching the Underdog episodes, stick around for the Underdog part after. It's a lot of fun. Again, a lot of translation across both, right? We're in the same with the betting, right? You can kind of lump them all in together. Guys we like in the betting world are oftentimes like in the fantasy world and stuff. But Underdog, obviously we'll talk about it more later, but super, super fun fantasy game to play.
It most certainly is. All right. Any news, anything we got to cover before we start actually breaking all this stuff down? Because I'm almost ready to just sort of break it all down.
Now, I'm ready to jump in. I think we've covered everything. Nothing's broken since we recorded the Xfinity race anyways. And so here we go.
Perfect. All right. Well, then let's do that. But let's tell you first about our SGPN Second Chance Survivor Contest. Are you already knocked out of your NFL Survivor pool? Well, you're probably not, because you're a smart person out there, but maybe you are. Maybe something happened and you just picked wrong, or maybe you forgot to pick that day. Don't worry. We got you covered. The SGPN Second Chance Survivor Contest is here. It's presented by Corey Pinkston and Barking Dog Properties. There's $3,000 up for grabs, probably a lot better of a pool prize or prize pool than your last Survivor contest. So make sure you get down on this. It starts this weekend. So sign up now. You want to do that, go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/survivor. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/survivor. Go support the guys over there at the NFL Gambling Podcast. They are working hard to bring you all of the content. Every day they've got content, man. Whether they're recapping games, whether they're giving you 2-week look aheads on lines, whether they're giving you the lines for the prime times or just the week ahead. These guys are killing it and crushing it right now as far as NFL gambling content. So get down on their contest right now. It's a touchdown prop contest. So if you go leave a review now in your favorite podcatcher, you're going to get an opportunity to win a $50 SGPN gift card if you have the best and the most profitable touchdown prop in your review. So make sure you get down and do that. And while you're leaving that review, remember to leave your YouTube username in the review so we can contact you when you win. The Homestead-Miami, I keep doing it every damn. Sorry, Homestead. The Homestead-Miami Speedway is the scene of this crime. It will be a 267 lap. 267 laps around this 1.5-mile track. So kind of your average 1.5-mile lap count as far as that's concerned. We have seen some massive lap leaders on this one. So making sure you have at least one lineup with the person that leads the most lap will be important in this race.
Yeah, they didn't offer that overlap sled this week that we hit last week. Again, all of the trends we had looked at last week when we covered that were about, it went over almost every time on these 1.5 miles. Yet these finishes always come down to the last lap. You look at Kansas 1, right? Even Kansas 2, we had the overtime finish and Reddick took it, but last week Bell almost got there. But yes, lap sled, sorry to interrupt you, but lap sled, extremely important again this week, because the result might change near the end of this, like we've kind of seen on some of the 1.5 miles, but we get the periods in there where somebody is just going to be leading a good chunk of this race.
Yeah, and again, this is a instance where when you look at the pricing too for the DFS, they've pretty much got this nailed as far as if you look at the books, there's definitely a correlation between the favorites and the pricing. And of course, you look at the people that are successful on this track, again, correlates on this as well. So
they priced it up too. I mean, Larson at the top, 11.5, We talked about it, right? He's minus 110 to sit on the pole here, even though he's never had a pole here, which is interesting. And then he's what, plus 250, plus 275 to win the race. So it's appropriate that he is the highest priced guy as well.
Yep, indeed. So, all right. Well, then I think I'm ready to start queuing up some plays. How about you?
Yeah, I'm ready as well. So top of the board, you do have Larson, then it's Hamlin, Reddick, Byron. I'm going to skip past those four guys. I'm going to go to Christopher Bell. We'll talk about Larson here in a minute. He's obviously going to be very popular and good chance he leads a lot of this race, right? So may end up being the guy you need. But if you want to get a little different at the top, I think that Larson's going to be very popular. I think Reddick's going to be the next most popular. Hamlin will be pretty popular as well. I like him to win this race. We talked about him leading a ton of laps in 2020, so he's a guy you could consider. Byron obviously has the capability. He's won here before. But Christopher Bell, a guy I talked about over on the betting episode, really, really like what I've seen from Christopher Bell lately. He has been on a roll. Last week, Las Vegas led 61 laps, and then he ran second for that entire last stint there and ran Kyle Larson down. And again, one more lap, he might have been the one that was punching his ticket to the Final Four. So if you go back over the last few races, we'll take out the Roval and Dega, of course, because they're kind of just irrelevant. 4th place at Texas, 3rd place at Bristol, 8th place at Kansas. He is getting you good results on these mile and a halves, on these intermediate tracks. His DFS days can be a little bit up and down, right? 73.8 last week, which is great. But then again, the downs really are the Roval and Dega, which, whatever. It kind of, but you go back to like Bristol, he led 66 laps that day. He started on the pole. And that's another thing too. Christopher Bell has been the Ryan Newman of today. He is winning all these poles. So he could start on the front row. If he starts first, there's a good chance he's going to lead a portion of this race early on, get you those laps led early. So I really like Christopher Bell this week. I think at 10,200, that offers you a $1,300 discount off of going with Kyle Larson at the very top. And you can squeeze in 2 bigger guys, right? As we've done before, 2 of the more expensive guys, but he does offer you a bit of a discount from the very top of this. Maybe he doesn't quite have the upside of a Larson, but I think especially in GPP, he could be a really, really solid play. A nice pivot off of the Larsons, a nice pivot off of the Reddicks. So yeah, give me Christopher Bell, 10,200.
And again, as you put together all of your DFS lineups, if you're a stout DFS player, you know that you have to differentiate yourself sometimes in some lineups, because if Kyle Larson does end up going the way of Texas, being a very fast car and doesn't finish well in that race, then you're covered, right? You've got another lineup out there that has somebody other than Kyle Larson. But I will tell you, you're going to need a lineup with Kyle Larson in it. And it's just almost as a given in this case. He is the most expensive driver on this slate. He is $11,500. It's going to be difficult to build a very powerful rest of your card with Kyle Larson in it. I understand that, but you have to try. You have to try at least one lineup with him. He has actually inherited the lead now for fantasy points per race from Martin Truex Jr. He did that a while ago, but I mean, he's sitting atop now at 43.9 fantasy points per race. I mean, honestly, he won last week, right? Which was obviously huge. Unfortunately in Texas, he did finish 31st, but in that race, he actually had the highest speed ranking in that race. For the better part of that one. His average speed rank across all of the half mile and high wear intermediate tracks, according to our fine folks over there at iFantasy Race. So thanks, Ryan, for always putting together these charts. 3.67. He is the top of the chart as far as the average speed ranking in all of these, and ahead of Denny Hamlin by a pretty decent margin. 5.11 Denny Hamlin sits. So we talk about speed rankings across the board. He was, again, second at Vegas, even though he won that race. First at Texas, even though he finished 31st that race. In Kansas, 2, he was 3rd. Darlington, 2, he was 1. Charlotte, 8th. Darlington earlier, 5th. Kansas, 3rd. Las Vegas, 2nd. Auto Club, 8th. So within the top 10, if not the top 2 or 3 in speed rankings across all of those. And on this track in particular, I mean, listen, he won last year, led 199 laps in that one. You want to talk about DFS days? That's a fantastic DFS day. Another fantastic DFS day was in 2021. He didn't even win this race. However, He started 17th, finished 4th, led 5 laps in that one. You want to talk about just dominance on this track in general, though. Kyle Larson has led the most laps of all active drivers on this track, 529 to Kyle Busch's 465. In 9 races, 5 top 5s, 10 top 10s, and a win. And for Kyle Larson on this track, even those 42 cars days were 5th place, 2nd place, and 3rd place. So not all of those top 5s have come by way of the 5 car. So again, Kyle Larson on this track, you can't not have at least one lineup with him in it. I know he's expensive. I get it. It's hard to stomach, but I mean, if he goes out and leads 199 laps of this race, or 145 like he did in 2017 in the 42, or 132 like he did in 2016 in the 42, well, then you're just going to kick yourself. And I don't want you to kick yourself, because self-harm is not good.
Yes, Larson is going to be super, super popular this weekend, but for good reason. He has been the best driver at this track time and time again. You can't always count on him to get the finish, as we noted in Texas, right? And so that's why I think you do have to have some pivot plays, but it's hard to argue against Kyle Larson, because he should be a really good play this weekend on a track that he's very good at. He's got nothing to lose, which you can make that argument either way, right? If he gets a little too aggressive because he has nothing to lose, he could bounce it off the wall incorrectly and mess up a toe link. But yeah, he's going to be very popular this weekend, so just keep that in mind. But for very good reason.
Indeed. All right, let's take a step down. Well, and then also let me further that case real quick, just so everybody understands that he has got the highest average finish too at intermediate tracks since February of 2020 at 8.8. So again, he's Kyle Larson. All right, let's take a step down. I've hammered that point home enough to the mid-price drivers. Who do we got, Cody?
Yeah, so mid-price, kind of going towards the bottom of the mid-price range here. Michael McDowell, 6,500. Again, if you want to get some of these more expensive guys in, this is a good way to get in on a guy that is a little cheaper but has been good here in the past. You go back to last season, he finished 10th place here. In 2021, he had a 6th place finish here. He was 15th in 2020 even. He has been really good here. Of all the Ford drivers, he has only Brad Keselowski has a better average finish than him. This was a point I made on the betting show for his 50-1 top Ford odds. Make sure you get on that, because that's one I really like. But of the Ford drivers, he's been one of the more consistent ones here. 17th last week. He was 15th at Texas. At Bristol, ended up 6th place there. Again, the reason I keep bringing up Bristol just is because it's the intermediate package. But he has been consistently getting some pretty good points most of the time. He's had a few negative days here and there, of course, but 27 last week. And then if you go back to like a couple of weeks ago at Texas, he scored you 30.9. At Bristol, he scored you 41.9 there. Those are road courses, but yeah, it's the way they list these is so weird. But he's had some pretty good runs, and he's been really good at Homestead here in the past. Even before the next gen car, he had some good finishes here, which really goes to show you they've stepped up things since then. So Michael McDowell, 6,500. He's a guy that I like this weekend. I think JDK had brought up his top 10 price while we were talking live on the betting show. I think that's 8-1. That's a really good bet. I think he could be a top 10, top 15 car at the end of the day. And at this price, again, if you're kind of going to mid-tier guys, but you're going towards the bottom side of things, can help you get a Larson in there, can help you get a Hamlin, a Reddick in there, however you want to go at the top of your lineup, and open those options up a little more, and then make you not have to dip too far into the cheap basket if you don't want to.
Yeah, and Michael McDowell, honestly, is one of those guys where if you put him in, obviously, one of your GPP lineups, then you're going to love it if he finishes better than you expect, and then you're just going to be like, oh, okay, well, I didn't expect him to do all that well if he doesn't. So long as he doesn't lose you points, and I know at mid-tier driver level, you want kind of more than just somebody that doesn't lose you points, but on this track, it's so top heavy that you have to kind of dip down, like you and I are, as a matter of fact, into the lower ends of this mid-tier to sort of make it to where you can fit these higher guys in. And so when you get down to the lower end of the mid-tier, those are the guys where you start to, that line between I don't want you to lose me points, and I want you to get me more points sort of blurs. So
Right. Yeah. And he's proven time and time again that he can get you just solid points. He's probably not going to lead a ton of laps. Top five's probably a little bit out of the question, but he still get you that solid finish and score you a decent amount of points.
I concur. So then let me offer up John Hunter Nemechek. The price kind of gets me a little here. It's $6,800. I mean, and for him to be priced more than Michael McDowell sort of makes me a little bit weary, but by the same token, like John Hunter Nemechek, if you listen at all to our Xfinity shows, that name pops up every single time because John Hunter Nemechek is, as Cody says, the fastest driver in the fastest car every single week, right? I mean, that's why he's getting a ride in the Cup Series. That's why he's being promoted again. That's why he's getting a chance to do this and run. So at $6,800, John Hunter Nemechek is in that 42 car, taking the place of Carson Hocevar. Carson Hocevar, if you are Dale Earnhardt, this week. And honestly, for kind of good reason, they rolled out John Hunter Nemechek in this car, not this car, rather the 45 last season. He did run Homestead, his only time in the Cup car in Homestead, but he actually started fourth in that race, which I kind of brought up earlier in the betting episode. A little more background on him there too, but he started fourth, which I mean, in the 45 car, you kind of expect because it's a 2311 car, but now he's doing that thing where he's racing a Chevy, but he's a Toyota driver, but Legacy's moving to Toyota. So it's kind of like that big game of that shell game of who's under what shell.
Yes.
But anyways, he ended up finishing 27th in that race. Not a good finish for him, but look at what he's done in the Xfinity Series as far as this track is concerned. In 2018, started third, finished third. In 2019, started sixth, finished sixth in this one. So not bad finishes for him there. In the Truck Series, he has a second place finish in 2015, a seventh place finish in 2018, a couple of not really stellar finishes, 11th place, 15th, and 35th. But, you know, again, he's sort of progressed his way through the series and has done well in each and every series. So it's $6,800 in that 42 car. It's not bad. I mean, we've seen Eric Jones and Carson Hocevar run around the top 15 in this car. And honestly, if that's where he finishes at $6,800 in the top 15, I love it just for finishing position alone, let alone whatever places he's going to get me in the process. So I'll take John Hunter Nemechek at $6,800.
Yeah, and even in his other two Cup starts here, back when he was in the 36 and the 38 for front row, he was 23rd and 19th, and that was in the old car. That was before, he was young then. That was before he took the route back to the Truck Series and kind of built his way back up through everything. Those were good, solid finishes back then. I would say he's probably 10 times the driver today that he was back then. We've seen the speed from this team. Eric Jones, especially on this track type, has done well. Hocevar good in this car. Again, some people might be a little scared to play him, especially the people who don't pay much attention to Xfinity. Like, oh, he's coming in. There's no numbers next to him, right? It's blank in the fantasy racing points for, and there's no, you click on his name in DraftKings there's no history there because he's not made any Cup starts this season. So I think that'll scare some people off. So I think he could be a pretty solid play. And where they have him priced, they don't want to sleep on him either, which shows you, what they think of him. He's the favorite to win on Saturday. There's a good chance he does win, right? So he's going to have that track time the day before. I do like John Hunter Nemechek as a DFS play this week.
Outstanding. All right, we'll come back with some low-price drivers, but I want to tell you first about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy, as you will find out later, has a way to not only play alongside your favorite football team, but drive along with your favorite drivers all season long. Underdog has just introduced Scorchers. Go 5 for 5 and pick 'em Scorchers and enjoy a spicy 100 times payout. And for a limited time, Underdog is extending the first bonus deposit bonus up to $500. $100,000 Sundays continue on Underdog Fantasy. 10 of you lucky players are going to wake up $10,000 richer. We're going to toss out plenty of our Underdog Fantasy picks for the week, so stick around for that at the conclusion of our DFS part. So watch along, make your picks, and maybe make a little cash over on Underdog's mobile app or website, underdogfantasy.com. And when you sign up with the promo code SGPN, Underdog's going to double your first deposit up to $500. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code SGPN. Buying tickets is stupid, flat out, End of story. Don't even want to talk about it anymore, but I'm going to because it stopped being so stupid. I know you don't want to deal with all of these apps that are trying to gouge you for last minute ticket purchases and sometimes confusing you as to where they're even sending the tickets in the first place. It all gets to be so damn stressful, but Gametime has taken all of the stress out of that because not only are they going to send tickets to you on your phone because it's made for mobile, you don't have to go fishing through your emails, but they're also going to give you great prices on last minute ticket deals. So you don't have to worry about whether or not you can go to the concert a month in advance, 2 months in advance, and heaven forbid the night before. It doesn't matter. Gametime is going to be able to take care of you. They're going to give you great deals on all those last minute tickets. Plus, they're going to guarantee that when you buy on Gametime, your tickets are going to be on time and authentic, guaranteed. You want lower fees, you want better prices, Gametime's got that too. And if you happen to find, which probably won't, a ticket for a better price than what you just purchased on Gametime, they're going to give you 110% of the difference. Send you a picture of the seat, they'll do that too. Make sure you go snag the tickets without the stress now with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code CFBX for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CFBX for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bets' revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot, which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark. Join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. We are all about saving money here on this show. Winning money, saving money, doing all that stuff. Sometimes to win money, you got to save money. So let's get down into the value players. I'm going to stop saying bargain bin because these people are human beings. So let's get into the value plays. These guys are values. You're valued, whoever we're going to call out.
All right, Rod, I'm going to start with the honorable mention, the free square. At one point this season, Kevin Harvick claimed that spot. He was the free square. Every week you could plug him and play him. There is a guy you can continue to plug and play every single week down in this range. Watching on YouTube. Corey LaJoie, 5,700 again, Rod. Like, what are they do? I don't understand. Like 33 points again last week, 33 the week before, 73, 17, 20.3, 20. He just gets you good, solid points every single week. I literally start my lineup every single week with Corey LaJoie as the first driver. He's not my pick this week just because I've been giving him out every week and I'm a little bit tired of it, and I'm sure you are too, but it's got to be mentioned because why do they just keep? So Corey LaJoie is just a plug and play guy. Again, he's been getting it done. But so I went with McDowell at 6,500 as my mid-tier guy. I really dove down to the 6,400 price for my low tier. I was kind of walking the line there, but I wanted to get Austin Dillon in here because Austin Dillon has been really freaking good at this track. I am big on Austin Dillon this week. He has the 6th best average finish over the last 3 races here of all drivers with a 7.7 average finish. His first career start, 25th place. The next start he had, I think, was 14th. And then the last 7 in a row have been 12th place or better. Last season, he finished in 4th place. Austin Dillon loves Homestead-Miami. Every time they come here, he seems to get a good finish. It's been down from him this season, right? And that might scare some people off. That is perfectly fine. 23 points last week. Okay. For where he's at price-wise, it's okay. But the upside that he presents to you just for how good he's been at this track, and we saw it last week, Kyle Busch scored a podium finish, right? Came home in 3rd place. So we know those RCR cars are still clicking at a pretty good rate. Dillon is good here every time. One of those drivers that he's got those certain tracks, and when you come to those tracks, he's good there. Really, really love Austin Dillon this week. I think it's 6,400. He's going to be on the higher side of your low-tier drivers, of course. But again, If you're going to go with your mid-tier driver being a McDowell at 6,500 on the lower side, you can come up on the higher side a little bit here. It's all about finding that good balance. And I think that Austin Dillon is definitely a guy you've got to watch this week, because 7 times in a row he's finished inside the top 12. For a guy at only 6,400, that's pretty solid for you, especially if he doesn't end up starting the best.
Austin Dillon, it is. I still have trouble. I really do. It's so frustrating because
that's how a lot of people think, which is good.
that's yeah. You want to pounce on people like me who scroll through and go, no, and instantly, instantly say, I'm done. I don't want him. So listen, for me, I went all the way down into the dredges. $5,400 for one Ryan Newman. If you have the words Rick Ware muted on your podcatcher, you might want to go ahead and unmute right now, because I'm about to talk about a Rick Ware driver in a positive light, and that's okay. Because if there's one driver,
you're getting ready for next season when we're talking about Rick Ware positively all the time.
I am. I'm prepping for it right now. I'm sort of getting myself warmed up into that mode. But but if there's one driver so far that has not made this Rick Ware car look like a brick, that's Ryan Newman. And I say that only because he's actually look, he's finishing in the 29-30 range, but at the same time, it's Ryan Newman. Like, he's been actually giving you some decent DFS days, and really that's what we're all about. We don't care where they finish. We just want them to give you good DFS days. So with the exception of Bristol, right, where he finished -4 on that Brass Pro Shop night race, he gave you 23 points at the Cookout Southern 500. He gave you 16 points at the Cookout 400, 15 at the Crayon 301. And then if you played him in the NASCAR Open, he got you 33 points, and then 12 at the Goodyear 400. So if you're doing the math, in the 5,000 range, that's close to 3, sometimes 4, and in some cases 5 times the value on what you are paying for one Ryan Newman. And if at $5,400, I'm going to get a solid 15 points, I mean, I'll take it. I will take 15 out of him. I'll take 23 out of him for sure. And look, on this track, yeah, he's driven the 6 car, the 31 car, the 39 car, every car but the 51 car on this track. But he's not bad finisher, right? 23rd place start in 2021, finished 7th. That was in the Roush 6 car. It's a little different. But this is about being able to get around this track and proving that you can. So, in 2019, 15th place finish, 7th place finish after a 15th place start. In 2017, 10th place finish, 21st place start. Look, all I'm saying is I want a guy that's not going to lose me points on a track that's not a short track, right? So, I'll take Ryan Newman, $5,400. That kind of frees up a lot of room for me to be able to play around with the rest of my roster.
Again, sometimes it's really just really gross to dip all the way down this far, but for Newman, it's not that bad. You made the point. He's had solid days, Bristol being the lone example. And I think that was the race. Didn't he wreck himself to not wreck one of the playoff? Tyler Reddick, maybe wasn't Tyler Reddick, I think, was trying to pit way too late, and Newman kind of wrecked himself to stay out of the way, cost him probably would have been a decent finish being a good guy. But you look at, like, he's raced at Darlington twice this year, high tire wear tracks. This is a high tire wear track. He's going to be racing Saturday in the Xfinity race. So he's obviously got this one circled as a place he wants to come, place he wants to race. Again, when the salaries are 11-5 all the way at the top of this, if you want to squeeze Kyle Larson in here, if you can go with a Ryan Newman and a Corey LaJoie all the way at the bottom, that opens up so much salary opportunity. And really, the guys we gave you, even, there's $3,200 left to play with. And that's squeezing in Larson at the top, Bell at the top. Again, that mid-tier is where we kind of dropped down and saved a lot of money. So there's still plenty of good ways to get two big dogs in here. And then, yeah, there's some really good cheap plays this week, despite the fact that in a general sense, they've priced the field up a little bit. And the top is a little heavier just because these races kind of should go a certain way. But there's a lot of value to be found in here. You just got to look for it. That's what we're here for.
I agree. Okay, let's go over the DFS picks real quick before we shift our attention to Underdog. Cody started you off with Christopher Bell as his high-priced driver. I gave you the chalk, Kyle Larson, at the top at 11.5. Cody gave you McDowell at 6,500 as his mid tier. I said John Hunter Nemechek would make a good addition to your roster at 6,800. Cody gave you Austin Dillon, and then, of course, autoplay of Corey LaJoie for his lower tier drivers at $6,400. And I gave you Ryan Newman at $5,400 as my value driver. All right, Cody, let's talk about Underdog Fantasy. As I've said before, they've changed the verbiage now. So you're either picking a better finish or a worse finish than their projected finishing positions. Makes things a hell of a lot easier for me because then I don't have to worry about explaining it to you. So again, as it is, you can pick up to 5 drivers, or you can even cross sports if you want. You can go football. You can add some football this weekend. You can add some F1 when you're on there. There's some Xfinity that'll about to come out here soon. So mix and match, but we're going to give you our favorite underdog picks from the cup race itself, because that's what we've got available to us right now. So we're going to do that. And so we'll give you 3 each as we do with the DFS. So Cody, where do you want to take us to first?
Yeah, I got all sorts of out of order here, so I'm going to start different than the sheet says, but that's okay. Nobody else knows that except for you, Rod. So I'm going to start with Brad Keselowski, better than 9.5 finish. Keselowski has been pretty good at this track in the past, and he's also been very good here lately. Go back to last season, his first season with the RFK, a nice solid 5th place finish. Prior to that, 2021, 16th, but he did lead 47 laps that day. He was having a strong, solid run. He has got a couple of 3rd place finishes. He's got a 6th place finish here. Keselowski has been very solid at this track, but you look what he's done lately. Last week, 4th place finish at Las Vegas. He led 38 laps on the day. You go back to Texas, he finished 7th there, 8th at Bristol, 9th at Kansas, 6th at Darlington. Again, that high tire wear intermediate. Michigan, 4th place there. Again, another intermediate type of track. You go even farther back. I guess his results weren't as good earlier on in the spring, but 7th place at California even. Keselowski has been running really well lately. I know that he got eliminated from the playoffs. Obviously, he's not still going, but his pit crew has been on fire. That's why he got such a good finish last week, because they get him out. They are turning under 9-second pit stops consistently. They had multiple 8-second pit stops last weekend. They're getting him spots every time he comes down, and you're going to be doing that a lot this week, right? Every chance you get, you're coming to get 4 tires, you're coming to get fuel, because it's a high tire wear track. It wears out. You're not staying out. This is going to be a battle of the pit crew. They're going to get him spots almost every single time he comes down a pit road, if not every time. That's going to move him forward. All he has to do is finish in the top 9, right? Better than 9.5. Love it this week for Brad Keselowski.
Well, I love me some RFK. I love me some Bread K. So I definitely agree with you on this one. Yeah, 9.5 for him. The only way that this could really get spoiled is if it's just a top 10 finish for him. So I don't think that's going to happen. Like you said, I think it's going to be a better finish for Bread. In fact, go back and listen to the betting show. I've got some more to say about him as well. So, all right. Well, for my first underdog play, I'm going to take Martin Truex Jr. His finishing position is set at 5 exactly. I'm taking the worse than side of this one. I get it. I know he was the regular season champion, but something has happened. Something, and we talked about it too. Again, I think in the recap show, where that relationship between he and his crew chief, while it may be the way they go about it. And listen, I'm okay, because I live in a world where my significant other is brutally honest with me to a point. So when I heard that radio chatter, I was like, oh yeah, okay, fine. I get that. But some people don't
like a married couple. That's what everybody says.
Like a married couple, right? So there they are. But again, there's something wrong, because that type of friction should not really be happening in a playoff run, right? In a championship run. So there's something that's missing in that. So for Martin Truex Jr., if you look at where he's at as far as overall speed ranking, he's 8th on the list in mile and a half and high tire wear, right? He's got a 10.22 average speed rank in that ability. 9th speed rank at Las Vegas, 21st at Texas, 19th at Kansas, 21st at Darlington, 4th at Charlotte, 2nd at Darlington. So the beginning of the year was great for him. 2nd at Kansas, 4th in Las Vegas, and then 10th at Auto Club. But the thing of it is that you look at his last few intermediate track races, where he actually sits at a 12.5 average since February of 2020. In the span of the last few intermediate tracks, 9th place at Las Vegas, 17th at Texas, 36th at Kansas, 18th at Darlington, 2nd at Nashville, 3rd at Charlotte, great, but a 31st at Darlington in the spring, 8th at Kansas in the spring, 7th at Las Vegas in the spring. None of those, with the exception of Nashville and Charlotte, are top 5 finishes for Martin Truex Jr. Difficult for him to get that done on this track in particular. A 6th place, a 3rd place, a 12th place, a couple of seconds. But I mean, we're going back now into the 78 car days. So again, very difficult for him to get it done. His last few finishes: 36th at Kansas, 19th at Bristol, 17th at Texas, 18th at Talladega, 20th at the Roval, 9th at Las Vegas. It's going to be tough for Martin to get into the top 5 this weekend. I just don't think he's got it in him.
Yeah, you beat me to the document. You stole this one from me. I agree. Again, talked about it last week. Like, once he shows me he can get it done, then maybe if he finds a way to make it to Phoenix, then yeah, he's still alive for this championship and everything. But until you kind of see it again from him, it's not been great. They're having the issues. You hear them bickering back and forth. I don't know. I don't love it. So I think that taking his worse than finish is definitely the way to go. Next up for me, Rod, I am going to go to Mr. Christopher Bell. Talked about him already over on the DFS section earlier. Love Christopher Bell this weekend. Go back to last week again. Like I said, he led 61 laps that day. Ryan over at iFantasy Race for his total speed rankings for that race. Christopher Bell was the fastest car in total speed ranking last week. We talked about Kyle Larson is very good at this track. Tyler Reddick's very good at this track. It's that dirt driver thing. It's that ability to rip the top, right? Bounce it off the wall just right. Guess who else has that dirt background? Who's good at that? Even though Joe Gibbs doesn't let him race dirt anymore, he still has the background in it, right? And that's Christopher Bell. We've seen him really just step up last season and this season, coming out in the playoff run. He won 2 elimination races last year to get himself into the Final Four. And he almost did it last week, right? Held up a little bit, didn't take Larson out. There's been some controversy. He kind of addressed that Thursday, saying, he wasn't going to do that. He wasn't going to wreck him, and he's going to race it. And I think that we're going to see a strong performance from him. Again, go back and listen to the betting episode, but I think that Christopher Bell could easily win this race. I think that's easily going to put him inside of the top 7.5. So Christopher Bell to finish better than 7.5 for me.
Well, again, like I said on the betting episode, I'm not going to argue with you on Chris Bell. He definitely proved something last week. And every time I say he's not going to do well, he comes out and does well. So maybe I'll just say it. Cody, I don't think he's going to do well in this
Thank
race.
you. I appreciate you saying that.
You're welcome. I put the reverse jinx on it for you so you can have a better finish than 7.5. So, all right. Well, then I will move to Tyler Reddick. These top 5s for me, it's a crowded space, right? I mean, it's Hamlin, it's Larson. I believe it's Byron. I believe that there's, maybe room for a couple more, but I don't think there's room for Tyler Reddick in the top 5. So I'm going to take his worse than a top 5 finish for Tyler Reddick. And really, just if you're looking at sort of his speed rankings from the last couple of weeks, he's 5th overall on these 1.5 mile and high tire wear. Once again, thanks to Ryan. He's sitting right now with an 8.33 average speed rank at these tracks, but the last couple have not been very kind to him. Texas, he was only 10th in speed rankings. In Texas, he was 11th. Before that, great. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, right at Kansas, Darlington, and Charlotte. But before that, 13th at Darlington, 10th at Kansas, 9th at Las Vegas, 16th at Auto Club. Not necessarily the most outstanding finishes as far as speed rankings are concerned for one Tyler Reddick. And you have to go back to Kansas, where, yes, Kansas is 1.5 miles. Yes, he won at Kansas. But since then, 15th, 25th at Texas, which is 1.5 miles, 16th at Talladega, 6th at the Charlotte Roval, 8th at Las Vegas. Not really very many top 5 finishes anyways on the season. 33 starts, 9 top 5 finishes. That ratio is not really giving me the warm and fuzzies. Although I will tell you, on this track, I'm sure that they set this number because he did have a 4th place finish in 2020 here, a 2nd place finish in 2021. But last season he crashed out and finished 35th in his last race well, not his last race, but his last race at Homestead in the 8 car. So all 3 of those finishes were in the 8 car. This 2311 team is fast, but there's a lot of guys that are going to be much faster, I think, than Tyler Reddick this week. At least 5 of them. So give me Tyler Reddick worse than a 5th place finish.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I want him to finish, but I got so burned by 2311 last week that I just kind of stayed away from him this week. And I think looking at last week, and I don't know. I'm just kind of off of him this week. A lot of people are very, very heavy on Tyler Reddick, but it's a pretty low number at 5. So he could easily just finish 6th, and you're hitting this. So hard to argue against that one. I am also going to go with a worse than, and we're actually going to be on different sides of this next one, Rod. I'm going to take Ross Chastain, worse than 7.5. I get it, right? He finished 5th at Las Vegas last week. He finished 2nd at Texas a couple of weeks ago. I understand that's probably going to be your argument. And he's had some decent finishes here. This for me is just, I guess it's more of a gut play than anything. It's an eye test play. Like, I haven't been impressed by them. And I don't know how they keep finding their way up there, but I feel like this is more of a race like a Kansas where he finishes in 13th and he's kind of not really a factor all day. And he just kind of at the end, you're like, oh, there's Ross Chastain. Okay. I know he finished 2nd here last year, I think it was. But he was in the heat of the playoff run at that point, right? The next week he goes and throws the Hail Melon at Martinsville and gets his way into the Final Four, and he was having a great season. And we just haven't seen it out of Trackhouse as much this season. I know he's got some decent finishes lately, and again, I'm sure that's what you're going to point to, but I'm just out on Ross Chastain right now. I think that as we continue to play these underdog game, I think that you have to get some unders in here, and this is one of the unders that I really liked as far as I felt more comfortable with. It's going to be harder for him, in my opinion, to be one of the top 7 cars than it is for him to be one of the not top 7 cars. So give me Ross Chastain under 7.5. The floor is yours for the opposite argument.
Cody, Ross Chastain finished 5th in Las Vegas last week. He finished 2nd at Texas the other mile and a half the week before. Listen, you basically laid out all of my counter argument for it as well. But listen, for Ross Chastain, yes, it has been.
I know that the defense is going to argue this, but
the defense is going to tell you that the last 2 races on a mile and a half track.
I've been brushing up on my Law and Order. The counselor Villagomez is going to tell you this, but it's not what it seems.
The last 2 mile and a half tracks for Ross Chastain have been fantastic. But let me expand a little bit more on that one too, because now I'm put in a defensive position as this overall, and I'm gonna once again go back to my buddy at Ryan at iFantasy Race to give me the ammunition needed to counter your argument as well. Ross Chastain is 6th in overall speed ranking as far as these mile and a half and high wear tracks. He was 1st at Auto Club, 8th in Las Vegas, 7th at Kansas, 1st at Darlington. Really the stretch that kind of makes you kind of right in this, and that's a 26th speed ranking at Charlotte, 15th at Darlington, 12th at Kansas. So yeah, you're absolutely right that those are that stretch that makes it bad. But 9th at Texas, 8th at Las Vegas, where he finished where? 5th and 2nd. So for Ross Chastain overall, intermediate tracks since 2020, he's got a 14th place finish. I get that. But at Homestead in that same span, that improves to 9.5. So all he needs is another couple of positions to better his average finish here since February of 2020. And of course, he wasn't always in that Trackhouse car in that instance as well. So there's something to be said about that, from a 17th place finish in 2021 in that 42. So here, all I'm saying is that it seems as if Ross is trending in the right direction on mile and a half. His head might be back in the game. I'm not saying he's going to go back out and dominate like he did last season and even finish 2nd, but I think a 7th place finish is right about where he should be. I think maybe there's a case to be made for 6th, but I don't know. Ross Chastain is sort of put it together on mile and a half in the last couple of months, and that's the direction I'm looking.
I like the case for 8th place. That sounds better.
But you're right. Listen, you are right in that it is easier to say that he will be outside of the top 7 than it is to say he'll be inside of it. It is a harder case to make to say he's going to be inside the top 7, but I'm looking at some of the numbers and they kind of add up to that.
Yeah, and this could be boring. I mean, he could be 7th or 8th place on the last couple of laps, and we're just cheering against each other for if he gets passed or passes someone else. So this could be fun, but we'll have to revisit. Again, I know some of the numbers are there. It just I don't know. I'm going to go with the gut on this one, and I'm fading Chastain this week.
Like I said, I get it. Again, it's easier to say that the rest of the field is going to be where he lives rather than the top of the field. So
it's like betting the unders, right? You're cashing until you aren't, because he's got to beat those 29 other cars.
Which, like I said, I'm hoping he does. So, all right, let's go over these underdog picks that we have given to you for the Forever 400 at the Homestead-Miami Speedway. Cody started you off with Brad Keselowski, better than a 9.5 place finish. And then I gave you Martin Truex Jr., worse than a 5th place finish. Cody followed up his Christopher Bell love with Christopher Bell, better than a 7.5 place finish. I said Tyler Reddick would finish worse than 5th place. I'm Debbie Downer this time around. Usually I'm on the better thans. This time I'm on the worse. Cody gave you Ross Chastain worse than 7.5. I flipped it and said Ross Chastain would finish better than 7.5. Let us know in the Discord who you think is the victor on this one. They're all going to take your side, Cody. This is just like at home. Kids take mom's side. I get left.
Wait, are you referring that I'm mom in this case? Wait a minute.
I'm just saying that one of us is going to be right, and it's probably never usually me. So
yes, let us know whose side you're on. We'll have to find a side bet to make and see who actually wins this.
We'll have to. Maybe. Well, there's nothing that. Okay, we'll figure it out. In Discord,
give us suggestions there as well.
All right. Well then, Cody, I think we've done enough damage for this DFS and underdog slate. Again, I'm growing to love this episode even more and more. I know before it used to be sort of like a, our catch your breath, but now you got to dig for these episodes again.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely love it. It's been a lot of fun. Again, DFS is always, it's been fun for so many years. Now we've got the underdog way to play as well. I know a lot of people out there have mentioned that they play it and they're having a lot of fun. And they're glad we're talking about it. So we're glad we're talking about it as well. Man, I'm excited. It's the week is over now, finally. We got some racing ahead of us. Let's fucking go.
Let's go. All right. In the meantime, as we turn everybody loose to set all of their lineups and their cards and everything they've got to do, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you on social media?
Yep, follow me on X at @Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my work over there. Make sure you're following us on YouTube. Just type in NASCAR Gambling Podcast. You'll find the YouTube over there. Click the subscribe button, hit the bell. Went live for our pick shows this week for all 3 series. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and might just continue to do that in the future. So make sure you're staying in the loop, and you can jump in with your thoughts, with your bets and questions.
I think we will do this in the future. We'll continue to do that for all the pick shows. So, all right, I am on X at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review. Be sure to check out the Backroad, Seth and Elliott talking all things Homestead-Miami as well on their channel. And then, of course, Fast Money. Check it out today on our For Frequency's Sake YouTube channel as well. All right, we'll see you back on Monday with the recap show as well. And, yeah, until then, everyone, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy Homestead. Let's go racing and let it ride. Thanks, Iconoclast.